Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776, and I've been getting hot and heavy with Watch Dogs 2 testing recently. And one thing I'm noticing is your CPU does seem to matter for this game. Now, what you're looking at, and why I have the camera sitting here and these numbers here, is that is the CPU utilization. And we are at 95, 98, 97, 98% as that fluctuates. For 99 for CPU utilization. And the crazy thing is, this is a 6700K i7 Skylake system, and it's still using that much CPU. Now, let me show you these settings really quickly. The settings are decent. We are at 1080p, and we're at 1080p for a reason, even though this is a fairly powerful system. You might have noticed it's SLI. You might have noticed GPU 1, GPU 2. It's SLI 1070s with an i7. All right. And it's a pretty beefy setup. Now, here we are at 1920 by 1080p, and here we are with the settings turned up decently. These are the same settings that I used in another video, more or less. I will show you the key difference. These are the same settings that I've used with a Haswell i7, the 4790, and a single GTX 1070. And with that system, I've shown you these settings at 1080p, 4K, and I will soon have a 1440p video put up. And the game played fine on all three of those, but it still used a high percentage of CPU. It used something like 90% CPU utilization, sometimes going as high as 98, 96, somewhere around there. So even on that setup, there was a lot of CPU utilization, but it played perfectly smoothly. And two of my videos are live already, and you can see that played perfectly smoothly. Now, the difference in settings here is temporal filtering will not turn on this system no matter what I do. Even, look, I'll turn MSAA off. Even if it's off, temporal filtering is grayed out for me. And I don't know if it's because this is an SLI system. I don't know if it's somehow tripping the game up. So I've turned on MSAA times 2, since I can't do temporal filtering. But everything else should be the same settings as what I have in the other videos. Now, with my i7s, here, let me call it a motorcycle. Let me do that really. Oh, I always do that because I'm used to the old game where I think you press up to bring this menu up. All right, I do use a controller. Sorry. I know some of you really don't like that, but it's what I'm proficient with is the controller. All right, so let's get on the motorcycle, ride around, check out the frame rate. As you can see, pretty decent settings. Here, let me turn off MSA times 2 really quickly. I actually do want to turn that off, and I'll turn off the VSync. Let's go into settings, turn off the VSync first, turn off the MSAA. I want to see just how high I can get the frame rate. Now, I only had the MSAA on to kind of make up for the fact that I wasn't using temporal filtering here. But like, as you can see, it's still not much higher of a frame rate. If anything, it's the same or even lower in some parts. It's still between 70 and 100 frames per second. It's fluctuating very quickly. I'm not sure if you can keep up. There is a frame rate counter to the right, and there's another one to the left. So, on the high end, we did just go up to 115 there. So, this is pretty decent, right? But the thing is this exact same system can play the game at 4K 60 FPS just fine. And you can turn VSync off and it can do 4K 70, 75 FPS just fine. So there is definitely an issue with CPU. I think this game is held back by CPU usage. And I think for the people who think the game plays fine, which, by the way, I've been one of them, I thought the game played fine because I'd only done GTX 1070 with i7 testing. I think if the game plays fine for you, you probably have a decent CPU. And if you're having trouble, unfortunately, you probably don't have an i7. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. And maybe people who have Skylake i5's, maybe people who have Skylake i5's like a 6600K, maybe you're having better luck, which at that point, maybe you could attribute it to the faster RAM on that platform. I'm not really sure. Or maybe it could be something architectural. I'm not sure. But with my i5 system, which I'm about to show you, my i5 with a single 1070, it's a train wreck. It's really bad. It goes down into the 30s actually, with settings even lower than what you see here. All right. Now, for what it's worth, I've got a video already. I'll link to it in here that you can watch where I take the Haswell i7 in a single 1070. Since this is a Skylake i7 paired with a with two 1070s, I know you might think, well, this isn't really apples to apples. Well, if you want to see the comparison with the Skylake i7 and the single 1070, then go check out the link. Now, what I'm going to do now is we're going to use the same monitor, but we are going to use different computers. Unfortunately, Steam acts really weird when I have both of my computers on at the same time. It actually tries to stream the game from one computer to the other, and maybe that's a setting that I have used improperly. I'm not really sure, if I'm honest. When you do testing with multiple computers, though, there are several weird quirks that you can run into. All right, so let me plug this in. Actually, if you know anything about Doom is one of those games that punishes you for testing it on multiple systems. And I forget if it was Titanfall 2 or if it was Battlefield 1. I feel like it was one of these EA games that was also causing problems for people who tested on multiple systems. All right, so I apologize for all this. It is late at night and I am squeezing this video in because I try to, oh, come on. Is my mouse going to work or not? Of course it wouldn't. I use a wireless mouse. I know I'm a heretic. I use a wireless mouse and then I use a game controller to play the games. Let me see here. Sometimes changing the, I don't know why, but sometimes changing the USB ports helps. This is a legitimate copy of Windows, by the way. The problem is I change hardware a lot, and I change hard drives, and I change motherboards. But I only bought so many I've actually purchased a lot of copies of Windows. A lot. How many copies have I purchased this year? I think 5 or 6. But the problem is when you start using different motherboards and different things like that, then it quits recognizing your copy as being legit. Now, part of the reason I have to deal with that is because I did buy OEM versions, which I've heard that if I had not bought the OEM version, maybe switching hardware wouldn't be such a hassle. But if you when you're buying like 5 or 6 copies of Windows, it's cheaper to get the OEM version. It's even cheaper to go on Kingwin. I'm aware of that, but I have not tried that yet. All right, I think we're good to go. I think we are good to go. We're overclocked. We got Afterburner open. We got Fraps open. All right. I know this is unorthodox, and I didn't edit the video, and I'm just doing it all in one take, but hopefully you guys are cool with going along for the ride. Okay, my local saves. See, this is one of the problems that you run into when you test on different hardware, especially back-to-back. Your local save file is not in sync with the data in the cloud. Well, of course not. Oh, I did have both systems running at once for a minute. I'm going to go with the cloud. I went with local save with Tomb Raider. I ran into this with Tomb Raider literally 2 days ago. Rise of the Tomb Raider. Testing on different systems. And it says, oh, you know, that they don't sync up. So I did the local and it corrupted my save data. And I kid you not, I lost, I don't know, a good 2 or 3 hours of gameplay from that. So what I'll do is I'll timestamp the video so for people who obviously wouldn't want to sit here and watch me go between the two computers. But this will be loaded up soon, I hope. This game does take its sweet time to get going. Also, i5's do seem to have a little bit of trouble when it comes to loading versus i7's. If you've never gamed with an i7, I know a lot of people say, oh, you don't need to game with an i7, but there are some benefits. All right, so 1070, 1920 by 1080. Shadows were at ultra. So my other video shadows were at ultra. I have to have them at high here though for a reason. It can't even handle ultra. Like it'll not go well. And I'm pretty sure I have screen space reflections on in that other video. Matter of fact, I have my video pulled up. Let me check this. At least I did have it pulled up. All right, here it is. Let's see what it says. Screen space yeah. So screen space reflections were set to very high, and shadows were set to ultra. When I did my i7 paired with this graphics card, same graphics card by the way, this Zotac 1070. This is actually my worst 1070 for what that's worth. See, and then there's temporal filtering on, SMA. All right. Anyway, you're about to see, this is going to be like a jank fest when it comes to the performance. At least it has been every other time I've tried to play it. With PC gaming, who knows? Especially when you do live demonstrations. It could try to prove me wrong. But, oh yeah, it's already janky when I'm moving the camera. Look at that. Down into the 53 frames per second just from panning the camera. All right, so let's call in a motorcycle. And I pulled out the gun again. I got to stop that. I keep scaring the civilians. All right, let's call in the motorcycle. I do like this mechanic. You got the motorcycle and it's right there. You don't have to go hunt it down. All right, ooh, janky. I can feel it. I don't even have to look at the frame rate counter. All right, this is I was gonna say the most playable I've been able to get it. It's stuttering very badly. Very badly with this 40, and this is a 4.2 gigahertz 4690K. I know that's not the highest overclock in the world, but it doesn't have a great cooler on it for starters. Okay, so that's part of the issue, but it's still overclocked. This is not stock speeds. It's still 4.2 gigahertz. All right. Yeah, it's been in the 40s and 50s. And remember, these are lower settings, 48 frames per second. I mean, this feels bad. It's not quite micro stutter city, but it's very, very, very janky. All right. Now, I know that in this video, I'm probably going to put in the title something about i5's having worse performance. And I know that a lot of this video is shown using an i7, but I wanted to show you that a powerful system that can run the game at 4K 60 FPS and look beautiful, I wanted to show you that that same system has a high CPU utilization, which by the way, we're at 98, it's pegged. 95%, it was pegged at 98, 97, 99%. Again, the CPU utilization's right there, 94%. So with this i5, I think one of the reasons why it's still stuttery is even though that CPU utilization was very, very high on the other system, 85% to 99% on that other system is high. This is higher still. This is 93 to 99%. And it just stays pegged in the 90s. Although, that was a lot of stutter. Although I've seen it be in the 80s before. Okay, I've been testing this for a while. It's been in the 80s before. Yeah, this is not good. That is so janky. It's like a hard stutter too. It's not even like it's weird. It's somewhere between a micro stutter and a hard stutter, and I know that might sound crazy, but it feels like crap. So I would imagine that if I turn the settings down, maybe what I'll do is I'll turn the settings down and I'll find a nice mix of settings and the performance will be good enough. But I'm telling you, I have a non-overclocked 4790 non-K Haswell system that can play this game just fine at 4K 30 FPS, 1440p 60 FPS, and 1080p about 70 to 80 FPS. And that's a non-overclocked Haswell i7. It's got DDR3 RAM. I think it's like identical speed RAM to what this is. So the RAM in this system and the RAM in the i7 system that plays the game fine, they both have identical RAM. It's 1800 megahertz and it's made by Kingston. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember now. It's Kingston DDR3 1800 megahertz. Can't think of the name of the RAM, I'm sorry. But Kingston's the brand. So anyway, look, 55, 53, 52, and these settings are lower. My i7 Haswell system plays at higher settings and perfectly smooth. So the CPU does seem to be having an effect, and I'm going to be honest, like I'm at a point where if I was building my own gaming computer for my own needs, a year ago, I think I would have bought an i5 and been okay with it. To be honest, I would have bought an i7 because I prefer i7s, but I could have been okay with an i5. I don't know if I'd be okay. I don't think I would. I don't think I'd be okay with an i5 anymore because I and other people have noticed that i5s, like when you play games like Fallout 4, that game has trouble when paired with an i5 also. So it gets to a point where there's these big games that come out and you want to play them, and if they're like this weird kind of stuttery mess or they're getting weird frame rate issues, it's not cool, especially like how expensive these computers are. You can put a cheap i5 system together with a 1070 and it's still going to be like an $800 system, more or less. What was I looking for? I was sitting here looking for something. Screen space reflections, right? Okay, so now these should be the settings that I was using with the i7 system, and the game will probably play even worse now. All right. Oh, it's real stuttery, but the frame rate is actually not as bad as you'd imagine. The frame rate doesn't look that different to you guys if you're just looking at the number, because I'm looking, it just went down to 42 frames per second, but this frame rate range is pretty similar to what it was just getting, but it's even more janky now. It's even more stuttery. Let me know in the comments, guys. I've thought about putting a website together, like making my own website with my own forums, with my own community forums, where we could report some stuff for each other. Because I went over to Steam before I made this video to see if anybody else was having like OS specific problems or processor specific problems. But it seemed to be a lot of people just complaining about the game being unoptimized. And I think like maybe a lot of people that go to the Steam forums don't. Wow, how did that happen? I didn't think I wrecked it that many times. I guess we can watch an explosion, maybe. If it even will. I'm going to call another one in, though. And I pulled the gun out. Awesome. Oh, it's blowing up. Dang, that was a bad explosion. All right. Yeah, I wanted to call the car. Motorcycle. There we go. We don't want to walk in our open world game. We want to drive. All right. So anyway, I went on the Steam, and it seems like a lot of people might not. I don't have the right word for it, right? Like there's a lot of people that don't think in a very technical manner. I don't know a good way to put it. There's not a lot of. I'll put it like this: I didn't find the answers I was looking for. How about that? So if I make my own website and I make my own communities and I make my own forum. What I would hope to do is I want everybody, if this game, what you got to do though, play by the rules, you got to use the same settings I'm using, right? So if this game with these settings play great on your i5 system, then I would love to know, like, is it a 6600K and it's water cooled? Like what's the deal? Or do you also have a 4690K and maybe you didn't even overclock yours and maybe you have the stock cooler on it and yet it plays great for you. You know what I mean? Like, I want us to be able to do that. And I'd probably try to have a way that we can upload videos for each other so you can show like a quick 1 or 2 minute video showing how it plays for you. Because I think we need that in the PC gaming community. There's so much miscommunication. Like, because people would be like, it plays fine for me, or people would be like, it plays bad for me. And it's like, all right, well, it's good to know this. Like, it's good to know it's playing great for some people and it's playing poorly for others, but we need to know more. Like, the guy that it plays well for, well, what is his configuration? The guy that it plays badly for, well, what is his configuration? So, the situation I'm in right now, I'm using the same SSDs, the same RAM, the same power supplies, the same graphics card. The only thing that's different is the motherboard and the CPU. That's the only thing different. And technically, I could have used the same motherboards, considering that they're both Haswell chips. I could have used the same motherboards, but I didn't. I went for different ones. Anyway, that should not really make that big of a difference. The motherboard, I would hope not. So that's where we're at. Gameplay's great on my i7s, but it has a high CPU utilization. You saw that, right? At the start of the video, 6700K, still 85 to 99% utilization. And I think the whole time that I've been on this i5 system, look at that, 99. It's at 99. I think it's been 95 to 99 almost the whole time. 95, 97, 99. And is it playable? Yeah, but man, it kind of sucks. So let me know if you got an i5, how well does it play for you? If you got an i7 and it plays badly, you can share that too. Basically, how does it play for you? What kind of hardware do you have? And I really am thinking about putting a website together where we can document this forever and ever. So people can look back. Heck, Ubisoft can even like look at it like a database and be like, well, it plays fine on all these systems and it plays like crap on all these systems. So that's what's up, guys. I wanted to do videos showing you how the game played with an i5. This is how it's playing on the i5, and I feel so bad, comparing this to what I showed you with the i7, because there is a huge discrepancy in the frame rate and in the smoothness. Huge discrepancy. On that Haswell system, it did go below 60 FPS. It was somewhere between 50 and 80 FPS most of the time. It would go down into the 50s, that's true. But it was still smooth. And I documented that in the description box. I was like, look, I get it that it goes below 60 FPS, but it's still smooth. This is not smooth. Although for the last 45 seconds, it's been fairly smooth. So maybe downtown gets an even worse frame rate. But I was having these issues earlier when I wasn't downtown. I don't know. That's the other thing. Open world games, and I'll end this video here in a second, but open world games, you run into this issue where in some parts of the map, it'll play better than others. That's just what happens in open world games. Now, I think we should report that, but I mean, like, ooh, that was a hard stutter. I think you can have a little bit of forgiveness for it being worse in some areas than others. But now all over the map, I've had at least some kind of issues with the i5. Although I did just have like a 45-second stretch of not much stuttering a couple minutes ago for what that's worth, instead of non-stop stutter all the time. So take that as you will. All right, so that's where we're at. I've repeated myself a million times. Let me know how it plays for you. And hopefully we'll sort this out. My next i5 video will probably have me, when I do the best settings video, it's probably going to have me lowering the settings for starters. And then the other thing is I'm going to run into a situation where I'm going to post like the max settings and the ultra preset. And I bet you somebody's going to say I'm trying to make it look bad. Because you see how it plays now. Imagine if the settings were maxed out. So people are going to probably say I'm trying to make it look bad. And then I'm going to have to link them back to this video and be like, no, I'm not trying to make it look bad. If y'all want to know the truth, this is like my personal i5 system that I take over to people's houses. And I want it to not suck, right? I don't want it to suck. I don't try to make it look bad on purpose. I'm actually annoyed by the fact that apparently i7s are the only way to fly these days. It's what it's starting to feel like. I mean, yeah, an i5 will play most of the games perfectly fine. That's true. But did last year, did you really want to be like, oh, I guess Fallout 5 plays like crap for me? Did you want to be like, oh, this year, I guess Watch Dogs 2 plays like crap for me? And you could stomp your foot and say it's unoptimized and all that. You can give it a bad Steam review. But at the end of the day, if you paid the extra $100 to get yourself an i7, the game would have played fine for you. And does it suck that you would have to do that? Yeah. But for me, it would suck even more to save the $100 and then have my games play like crap. So let me know how y'all feel about that too. Just sound off about whatever you think in the comments. All right, peace out. Have yourselves an excellent day. Oh, wait a minute. Dang it. If you, the frame rate's even worse sometimes when you fly this thing. When I flew this thing earlier, I got into the 30. Oop, there it is, 36. Yeah, and you fly this a lot in the game. It got down into the 30s earlier. At 1080p, it got into the flipping 30s. And I'm telling you, the 1070 with an i7 can play this game fine in 1440, fine in 4K, and fine in 1080p, obviously. So, I'm telling you, man, I think it's the i5. That's what it's looking like to me. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good one.